Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Mark from the Done Right Ranch. I'm here with my brother-in-law Ben. We're taking a tour around my hometown today, and we're going to get some pictures and some footage of some of the things in town and what's changed, and you know, just the area that I grew up in. And I really thought that I wouldn't live here once I became an adult. Left for the military and came back afterwards, and actually lived in Lansing for a while, and yeah, I'm back here in Mason, so pretty rooted in here now. Probably will be here till I pass. And so anyway, this is the town that we're gonna do. I'm gonna stop at different places and try to tell you what history I know. I don't know everything, so tell you what I can while we go, and we'll just kind of go from there. So anyway, this is my hometown. Thanks for stopping by. The subdivision we're passing here on the right is wasn't here when I was a kid. This was all farmland right here. Yeah, none of these houses were here except I can't remember for sure, but I think this, no, not even this one. This is all new right here too. I think this street here, right there, is the only one that was here when I was a kid. Other than that, it was all farmland. We're coming up on a bridge right now, and we're about to head over US 127, which is right out that way. And we're coming into Mason right now. We're going to stop and get some gas, and then we're going to start doing the little My Hometown tour. Okay, it's actually the next day. We're here at Speedway. There's our fuel prices, $2.45, $3.09 for diesel. But I filmed this yesterday and it didn't turn out so good, so I'm back today to refilm it. But Speedway here, pretty much the busiest gas station in town. But at one time, this corner had 5 gas stations. That Marathon over there was a Clark. This bank on the corner, I don't even remember. It's been gone so long. It might have been a Mobil or something. I can't remember. And then over on this corner where the urgent care bus is there, the red, white, and blue bus, that was a full-service Shell station there with towing and service. And then on this corner over here where the BP is, which is probably one of the slowest gas stations in town, that's all been rebuilt. It used to look a lot different, but back in the day, that was poor Paul's Sunoco. Paul Zimmerman owned it. He's passed now. But they did all of the towing for the police. They did all of the accidents. And out back there where that propane truck is out behind the building there, there was an impound lot there, and that's where all the crashes and stuff were put. And as a kid, we used to jump that fence and check out the cars for old 8-tracks and things like that that might still be in them. Across the street and down here a little bit, the big building there with the peak on the top, that was actually Felposh. It was a food store, and Meyer, which is a lot bigger chain here in Mason, when they opened up, Felposh basically went under, and they've added a little bit on to the end of the building here, and they've kind of made it a little bit of a plaza and stuff. So that's kind of it. There's you can see the AutoZone maybe way down there with the orange stripe. That used to be called Kerr Hardware. It was a different building altogether. It was a family-owned hardware that was in town for years and years and years. They were into hot air balloons and stuff, so they ended up selling out and selling to, I guess, AutoZone bought them. So anyway, that's this corner here. Used to be 5 gas stations. Now there's a couple, with one back off the corner a little bit. So anyway, that's it for here. Okay, this is the neighborhood I grew up in. This was Alney's house here. I'll tell you a little story about them in a minute. Hey, I wanted to butt in here. I forgot to tell you the story about the Alneys, and it's kind of funny. So I thought I'd just bust in here and real quick tell it. But when the film comes back on, you're going to see the three houses. The Alneys lived on the corner. My house was the second house, and then the third house was Snyder's, and they were a real sports active family. But of the three houses, our yards were connected. Now the next house down was Mr. Finch, and he was older, but he was a science teacher at the school, and Mr. Finch was a really good guy, but there was a fence at his yard, so that stopped it. So the three yards, the Snyder's, mine, and the Alneys, were all connected, and we called the Snyder's yard was the infield, my yard was the outfield, and then Alneys was like the grandstands or whatever. And the reason for that is when we played ball, if you hit a baseball or whatever and it went into Alney's yard, Mr. Alney would be sitting, they had a screened in porch on the back, and they always came outside when we played ball, and any of our balls that entered his yard, he ran out and he took them, and we didn't get them back. So that was like the home run area. If you hit one out there, you got to get another ball, it's gone. So that happened for years and years and years, and Mr. Alney, he's passed away now, but he retired from Wyeth, and when we were young, he was a little bit irritated all the time at us. But when we got older, he actually became better. He was an alcoholic, and he actually died from it. He had liver problems and stuff. But, he was still pretty old when he did pass. But when actually it was after I came home from the Army, Mr. Alney, to my mom, I think it was, that got him, but he had about 3 large trash cans full of all kinds of balls that he kept from when we were kids, and then he gave them all back. So that's the story of Mr. Alney. Now, I'm going to move the camera here real quick before I go back on. I'm just going to flash. I have a painting of his. He actually was kind of a talented artist, and you can see what his interests were by this painting too. It's called Hot Buttered Rum. I'm going to show it to you. This is it right here. He painted that. You can see F. Alney on the bottom there. But I wanted a painting from him because he was quite talented, and I got this one, and I've kind of cherished it ever since, even with some of the stuff that happened with the balls. So anyway, let's get back to the video. But this is the house I grew up in. This is the house I grew up in here, and it's changed quite a bit, actually before we sold it, and also after. But, when I grew up, and I'm talking like in the, this late 60s, early 70s was when I was a young kid and young teenager. And, you knew everybody on the street. Every one of these houses had kids at them, and we all knew each other. And, but yeah, it was a really close neighborhood. There used to be a house where these three are that was, they had a few kids, and we hung out with them, and down there in that white house, they actually still live there, the parents do, but we hung out with them. They were into cars and stuff, and these people here we knew. I mean, we just knew everybody on the street here. Now we're turned around and we're heading back the other way, but yeah, every one of these houses we knew people. The only one, and we knew them, but these people here, they had an adult kid when I was a kid, and that was it. They were a little bit older. I got a lot of memories in this blue house. Of course, it looks different. I had 3 friends that lived there, and then on this house on the corner in the back here by where the creek is, there used to be a German Shepherd chained up there, and he was a pretty violent dog, and some of the kids in the neighborhood teased him, and some of them got bit from it. So this house here when I was younger, they used to have a trail all the way around it, this house back here. And we all in the neighborhood used to ride our mini bikes there, and then out behind their house you could cross the creek on a wooden bridge, and there was some woods back there, and we used to ride. There was trails all through the woods, and it came out to an ice cream shop that's on this road up here ahead of us and down to the right, called the Dairy Hill. It's still there, the same, not the same owners, but it is still the same family. It's down this way, but we used to go there. They had hot dogs and turkey sandwiches, different things like that, and then of course ice cream, and we used to eat there a lot as a kid. But this is the Dairy Hill here. See, I used to come out a lot here, and right in the back there where that fence is, just off to the dumpster, there's houses in there now, but that used to all be pretty thick woods with trails in it, and the fence was knocked down right there so we could ride up that little hill and come to the Dairy Hill. And then over here on the right we're going to pull into is a park that was pretty popular as a kid, especially with the high school crowd. And you know, we all smoked cigarettes back then, and none of us were probably supposed to, so we'd come here and hang out. And then there was a path through here in the very back to get to the local airport back then, which we'll go there in a little bit. And then also you could go off to the right at the end back here, and you could have a shortcut to the high school, and that's the way I went to high school. Each morning was down my street and then through this park, and then cut across there to go to school until I started driving and got a car. Then obviously I drove after that. But this play area here was all donated. I'm not sure how old this is. I'm gonna guess 15 years, but I really don't know. But this was all donated for the kids to play on by people in Mason. And there's a couple of ponds here in the middle. This is the back one. There wasn't really ever any ice skating or anything like that here, although some people did, but you weren't really supposed to. But out back here there was a lot of people practice golf and things like that, and then like I said, it was a pretty popular hangout, especially when I started driving and stuff. We'd come, there's a lot of parking areas off to the side here, and we'd pull in there and park. Next to the park here is the Ingham County Fairgrounds. Get out here a little more. Was the Ingham County Fairgrounds, and every year there's the Ingham County Fair here, and this fills up with different rides and vendors and 4-H, different things like that. Down there is the grandstands, which I'm not sure, it's kind of up in turmoil right now. They were going to rebuild it and they tore it down, and then they didn't rebuild it. But they have tractor pulls and demolition derby, things like that there. The fair used to be a week and 2 weekends when I was a kid. Now I don't even think it's a week long now. But this area up here primarily was a lot of animal exhibits and things like that. And then they still, to this day, they have a lot of horse shows, and where people rent out the grounds. There's a public building here for wedding receptions and things like that. This brick one up here on the end. And then these were some of the popular parking spots here. And out in this area we used to play frisbee a lot and just kind of hang out. Say, spent a lot of time here as a kid. Yeah, over here's the public building where you could rent it for wedding receptions or whatever you might want to have there. Yeah, so this is Rayner Park. This brick house across the street was a place that we used to torment a little bit. They had a great big bell out back, and us neighborhood kids would sneak up here at night and ring the hell out of that bell. And you know, after a while they started sabotaging the yard with ropes, so we'd get clotheslined on the way out in their attempts to catch us. But you know what, we were kids and they never did. So anyway, we're gonna move on. Yeah, I see a plane moving over there. We're at Jewett Airport right now. It was donated by the Jewett family, this area, years and years and years ago. They were a prominent family in town, owned a lot of property. I think this plane right here is getting ready to take off. And we just heard one fly over us that I think might be about to land. Not real sure. None of these hangars were here when I was a kid. This was just a grass runway here. None of these buildings were here. This fence wasn't here. The only thing that I really remember when I was a kid as far as the structure was there was a tower with a balloon on it for, you know, wind speed and direction. And when I was a kid, we used to come here quite a bit on the weekends and hang out because they had planes all day long, Saturday and Sunday, taking up parachuters, and they would parachute and then land right here over in this area here. Out behind where those buildings are, which, like I said, they weren't there. None of these were here. I see somebody right here getting on this plane. So I don't know if this one's getting ready to take off too. I'm not really sure what they're doing. But this has changed quite a bit. Like I said, there's a paved runway now with runway lights, and the whole area is fenced, obviously, to keep, you know, deer and stuff like that out. There's a lot of deer out this way. This is just on the edge of Mason. In fact, it's across the street from the high school where I went to high school, which is kind of over that way over there. So, yeah, we were hoping to get a landing or something here. So, yeah, this is a pretty big area now. Like I said, it was much smaller. Grass runway, and I really don't know the purpose of the airport back then except for all the guys that parachuted and stuff. So on the other side of Ben's car there's a building over there. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's pretty big. I can hear a plane running over there. I think it's that one that we saw disappear out behind the buildings. He might be staging onto the runway. He's out behind those buildings there, I think. But these are all privately owned hangars. They all have planes and stuff in them. I used to work on a few of the people's cars. My old shop was actually across the street that's down this way on this end of it. I'm a building or two from the corner, but that's where the shop was. So we picked up a lot of activity from guys that were, you know, plane enthusiasts and what have you. I know that there's a World War II plane in one of these hangars, and I know that there's some jets and, you know, not huge, but personal jets and things like that, which, you know, when I was younger in the grass runway, I mean, you know, it wasn't really rough, but, you know, it wasn't like pavement. Yeah, he's taking off here. Let's zoom in here and see if we can catch him coming by. There he is right there. And he is in the air and headed out. Look at that. I was hoping to get that, and we got that. So anyway, this is Jewett Field. I went to school with some Jewetts. I don't know if it was the same family, but they were a large family, and they owned a lot of the property in town and stuff, and they donated this for the airfield. So anyway, we're going to move on to the next destination. Okay, we're pulling out of Jewett Field now. This building here is actually a cooperation with Lansing Community College and their aviation school. I guess if you're gonna have a course on airplanes, you gotta have a place where you can land them. This, I'm guessing, is the office building for Jewett Field. And then this is the road out. Right where we just passed was where I was filming before, but I wanted to get the road out here because there's just a ton of these hangars here now, and you know, they're all privately owned. They all have airplanes and stuff in them, so but there's a bunch of them here. And like I said, none of this was here. It was all just a grass airstrip when I was younger. This road that we're on driving out wasn't here. It was just a bunch of old planes like those two there, and they drop parachuters. And I think there's one there back there getting ready to take off. And across the street here, it's a concrete plant over here where that truck is pulling in. And then this plant over here, you can't see very much of it from here, but it's an asphalt plant. And then out in front of the asphalt plant was my old shop.